Welcome back to iProperty Radio with myself, Carol Talon. You can contact us on social media at iProperty Radio or indeed email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. In the PropTech hot seat today is Conor McGarry of RentDodo. Conor, you're very welcome. What is RentDodo?
Hi, Carol. Thanks for having me on. So RentDodo is a new platform for the Irish rental sector. It's a platform for letting agents and tenants to help them manage their rental applications. At the moment, I suppose a lot of it's kind of done by email, text, and phone, using platforms, the kind of the advertising directories, and letting agents get a huge volume of applicants in to their mailbox. Tenants are sending in hundreds of applications to properties, sharing a lot of personal information, and with that, there's kind of a lot of, I suppose, issues with that in terms of transferring data, not hearing back from letting agents. How does the letting agent make kind of a decision on which applicants to move forward with to kind of viewing or lease offer? So RentDodo is kind of streamlining that process and making it transparent and easy to use for all people involved in that process.
Conor, the rental market in Ireland is in an unprecedented shambles right now, and across the show every week we talk about things. Now, to be fair, we generally focus on the delivery and maybe the policies that are continuing to drive smaller landlords out of the market. So I suppose, first of all, one thing that has happened since the budget is that there's a huge appreciation for the difference between institutional landlords and non-institutional landlords. So is your platform designed for either or both?
The platform is for every person in the residential rental sector. We're initially looking at talking with letting agents, but eventually we will speak with landlords as well, whether they're small mom and pop landlords with one or two rentals, or institutional, the bigger kind of landlords that would have hundreds or potentially thousands of rentals. The idea is the platform is we've designed it in a way that works for everyone, whether you've one property or hundreds of properties. I suppose the key thing we're trying to target at the moment with RentDodo is, when you put up an ad to rent a property, you're going to be inundated with emails, and your mailbox is just going to be bursting at the seams with, in terms of people desperate for a home, and we recognize that. And you're going to have a lot of attachments with those emails coming in, passport photos, utility bills, bank statements, pay slips, you name it. The kitchen sink is coming in. And we wanted to be able to kind of have a platform where the letting agent, is able to manage all that information, without kind of having this nightmare mailbox situation where, you have a GDPR kind of time bomb ticking there. Are you handling this information correctly? Did you request this information initially? And how do you dispose of it, after the process is completed? And then on the tenant side, what are they being asked for? What are they providing? Is it fair? Is it reasonable? Does it meet kind of the Data Protection Commissioner's guidelines in terms of excessive or data minimization and things like that? So we wanted to standardize what information is collected about tenants and how it is shared, and then try to eliminate repetitive tasks on the tenant side so that they only have to upload their information once, and then they can share that with multiple letting agents as they're going through the process of applying for properties. And then on the letting agent side, saving them hours of trawling through loads of applications and trying to find the most suitable applicants for them. So we've streamlined that process. Just to give you an idea, RentDodo, when a tenant signs up to RentDodo, we created this new feature called Tenant Search, which is a standardized set of questions we ask tenants when they sign up to RentDodo. It's by the way, it's free to use for tenants, and that's the plan. It'll always be free to use for tenants, so they can sign up for free within a couple of minutes. We ask them to kind of verify their kind of core contact details, which will be their phone number and email address, and then we ask them to verify their photo ID. So it'd be a passport or an Irish driver's license, and we use that using a live selfie technology, and that means that kind of core information is now done for that tenant, that individual, and they don't need to share that information then with letting agents. So we've kind of removed a step from the process. It's minimizing the data that's collected, but we can say to the letting agent that we've verified the identity of this person. Other information we collect is their rental history, so they can upload their rental history, and it kind of creates a rental statement of where they have lived, who the past landlords were, contact details of past landlords, which allows the letting agents to perform past rental reference checks. And then the final piece of information is to do with income verification. And normally the way that would work in Ireland at the moment is, you email over PDF copies of bank statements, pay slips, employment contracts, there's no standardized approach to this. And what we wanted to do was create an income verification system that would kind of remove, if you're paid, monthly, fortnightly, if you're self-employed, if you're a freelancer, whatever way your income comes into you, we can verify your income, so that, if you're self-employed, you can't easily hand over a bank statement, for instance, or a payslip, because you mightn't have them, or it mightn't show regular income. So you might have to hand over financial statements. So what we've done is we have used open banking technology to scan people's bank accounts history and verify their income using open banking technology, so that it removes the need for tenants to share PDF sensitive information with letting agents that they barely know. And it means that once we verify their income, it stays verified in our system for up to 90 days. So while they're going through the process of applying for properties to rent, the letting agent can see that their income is verified, but can't see their financial information, such as, where they're spending their money, because letting agents don't need to know this. They just need to know, can they afford to pay the rent? So we were the first people in Ireland to bring in income verification into the rental sector.
The income verification is an interesting one, because we know ID verification is a challenge that letting agents had, and there's been a number of solution providers coming into the market, and in fact most are using UK providers at the moment. So obviously we'd love to see them using an Irish provider, but in terms of the income verification, that's really important. I suppose we can't underestimate how important that is, because it is taking away a lot of the responsibility for holding financial information that the letting agents currently have. Conor, when you and your team are speaking to letting agents around the country, how aware are they of their responsibilities and the weight of responsibility under GDPR?
I think, in fairness, everyone is aware to a certain degree of GDPR requirements, and how to handle data. But I suppose in the heat of the moment, or the kind of the day-to-day, kind of managing rentals, and certainly putting up ads, you kind of maybe lose kind of sight of what your responsibilities are, and you can just be flooded with emails and lots of personal information, and they kind of understand that obviously handling this and how much information they can press. Sometimes they mightn't even ask for information. And tenants are kind of saying, well, if I send more information, I might get to the top of the list. And it's creating a kind of a nightmare situation from a data protection perspective.
But to be fair, Conor, we know that when people are applying, we know from interviewing estate agents that actually the more information you give the estate agents and the more you build a relationship with them, the more likely they are to think of you when the right property comes in. So sometimes it's a case of actually a property not even going on to Daft or My Home, and actually just being put out across the verified or accredited tenants who are looking for properties that letting agents have, because the volume is so huge. Like we've seen astonishing figures of up to 2,000 people applying for one rental property. Like there's no letting agency in Ireland that has the potential to deal with 2,000 applications coming in for one. So say, for example, if people are applying through, using the tenant search process that you have through your applicant management system, do you shortlist tenants? Is that how it works? Or how do you make sure that letting agents are seeing the most suitable tenants?
So yeah, there's a couple of kind of steps through using our platform. So first of all, the letting agent creates an account with RentDodo. Then they create a unique property link. They can share that property link with, through any medium that they're using, whether social media, email, WhatsApp, or placing it on one of the advertising directories like My Home or Daft. When a tenant clicks on that link, they're automatically assigned to that property. It's like an apply now feature. And they're listed in the letting agent's list of contacts against that property. And then the next step is, for that tenant to complete their tenant cert. And the letting agent can automatically filter who has completed their tenant cert or not. So straight away, you can eliminate, people who haven't got their information together. And you can just speak to the people who have got their tenant certs to 100%.
And just to clarify, is the tenant cert having your income verified and your ID verified, and then whatever additional paperwork?
Yes, and your rental history. Also, another feature of the tenant cert is you can bring in joint tenants as well. So if there's 2 or 3 parties to the lease, they would be part of your tenant cert. So you can have multiple candidates applying as a group, under a single application. So the letting agent then can filter, who has their tenant cert. So I know that these people are serious about renting, that they have their information together. I will now kind of continue to the next stage of shortlisting these, maybe for viewing or for, maybe a face-to-face meeting. So RentDodo kind of gets rid of a lot of the kind of the initial kind of, task of, how do I get through like hundreds of applications really quickly down to the kind of my applicants that I kind of are most interested in. And then they can see if their income is verified, and then they can see we've created, using the Department of Housing's affordability scale, we were able to show people what their affordability score is based on the property they applied for. If the property was 1,500 rent and their income was, say, the joint income was say 4,000 or 5,000, we can work out the percentage score of what their affordability score is using the Department of Housing's guidelines. So,
and actually, just in terms of those guidelines, we know are those guidelines somewhere in the region of 30% of your income should be going towards rental, whereas we know in actual fact that's running into 55% for some.
Yeah, it's gone over 50% in a lot of cases due to the soaring rents. I think there are 4 scales on the Department of Housing. There's under 25, and then it's 25 to 35, 35 to 40, 40 plus, and they can use a traffic light system. We've kind of used that traffic light system. We've broken down to 5% increments so that you can kind of get a more granular kind of breakdown of your applicants based on their affordability. And look, I mean, whether they're coming through RentDodo or not, the affordability is going to be the same, but at least now we've independently verified their income, and you can rank them based on, who's got the best affordability score. So that's, eliminating a kind of another step for the letting agent to kind of find out who's most suitable for them.
Yeah. And Conor, one thing I know from 2 of our team members who were looking to rent property recently is that actually, well, 2 things really came to mind. First of all, it can be quite a sexist thing that actually women are finding it easier to get rental properties than men. That was one interesting thing. But another one is that actually it really is a numbers game. So we had somebody, that was applying, that definitely applied for more than 50 or 60. And then with somebody else who kind of was very lucky and got something quite quickly. But if you're looking at over 50 or 60 homes, you're applying for over 40 or 50 or 60 different properties to try get the one you want right now. I presume if people are applying through the applicant management system, that they only have to do that once.
Correct.
And then so their application then actually can just be attached.
Yes. So they create their RentDodo account, complete their tenant cert, and they only do that once. And then, if you're applying for 10 properties, 50 properties, it's just one click of a button. You don't have to send, emails and attachments, over and over again. Another feature that I mentioned was the control over how your information is shared, and you have a full history of who has access to your tenant cert information, and then you can take back access, at any stage. So when a tenant or a letting agent has access to a tenant's tenant cert, they only have access for 72 hours. So they can make the kind of when they're shortlisting their applicants, after that shortlist kind of stage is completed, the information that the tenant had provided through the tenant cert is just removed automatically, and the letting agent doesn't even have to think about that. So it kind of cleans up, the people's data at the end of the process, so they're not hanging on to it.
Well, actually, that's an interesting one. So at the end of the process, I presume you mean from the time they're looking for a new rental home to the time they move into their new rental home. But actually, is there a way of preserving the rental history to establish really a rental history? Because one of the things we're seeing at the moment is that um, certainly for first time buyers, there's conflicting reports as to whether or not mortgage companies are genuinely taking into consideration the mortgage or the rental history, how much has been paid for how long.
Mm.
I wonder, is there a way that actually the record keeping from here could be used to establish that, so when people come to buy their first home or to make their first mortgage application, that there actually is some history here to depend on? Is that something you've considered?
That is something we will definitely be looking at in future versions of our website. The initial version is handling kind of the application stage. Future features will include, setting up viewings and creating lease offers, digital lease signing, deposit payment, inventory management, and things like that. For instance, one of the features we would like to bring in is, deposit disputes, whereby, everyone has a checklist of, here's what the condition of the property beforehand, and everyone signed off on that, and there's a digital record of that. And then when you're leaving, you can say, well, look, here's the issues with the property, and it's a menu of items you have to go down through. And this is the way it's done, in the continent. It's a very kind of pro forma way of managing the deposit. There's no kind of like, how do I feel today about the deposit? It's a set of questions, and they can
that
deduct
well,
from
that that's definitely something that has caused issues in terms of the RTB, because we know that the RTB at the moment, landlords certainly aren't feeling well represented by that. There doesn't seem to be that balance of fairness, um, that it is seen very much as pro tenant and by extension anti landlord. And actually, even where landlords um, are securing orders, they are effectively unenforceable. So actually, by
yeah.
getting this right day one is a way to avoid RTB action.
That's what we would hope RentDodo will achieve in the long run. There's a record of all interactions, throughout the application stage, signing the lease and ending the lease. And then if there is an RTB dispute, at any stage during the lease or at the end of the lease, there's a full kind of transparent record of every interaction between the tenant and the letting agent / landlord. So that what it does is it's better for both parties as well, because everyone can see everything's on the table, and the tenant has come back, as well as the landlord and the letting agent. So, it'd be perfect in situations where you do end up with a dispute. You say, look, I have everything here, here's the dates that things happen, here's the communication, and here's, the things we agreed on and what was signed off by both parties. So that kind of creates a, peace of mind for everyone involved. And that's the idea. The philosophy behind RentDodo is not to just, do something for letting agents, but also to do something for tenants as well. It's to create a level playing field. And we hope that we can achieve that through RentDodo.
I think that, quite frankly, tenants and prospective tenants in the marketplace right now need all the help they can get. So we're delighted to see any initiative that's going to make it easier for tenants to access rental homes. So best of luck to yourself and to the team at RentDodo. I look forward to seeing how you change up the marketplace, because certainly it is ripe for fixing problems. I don't think there has ever been as many problems across the rental sector that need to be addressed. So we're delighted to see you and companies like yourselves coming in. So best of luck. That was Conor McGarry of RentDodo, and that's it from us this week. You can get in touch with the show on social media at iProperty Radio, or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. My thanks to the Hear Me Roar production team and to Luke Delaney on sound for Dublin South FM. Until next time, thank you for listening.